Hello and welcome back to Gotham Sound. My name's Nate, and today we're going to be going over the basic troubleshooting of a walkie-talkie. You get thrown into the position of being a walkie PA, right? And over the course of that production, people are going to come up to you. They're going to be like, hey, this walkie's broken. I need a new one. Well, today we're going to be finding out exactly what's wrong with those walkies, or at least trying to diagnose to see, do I need to bring this walkie in for a swap, or do I just need to change the battery, or is there some other issue that is easily fixable myself? So today I'm going to show you the basic troubleshooting that you might need to do if someone says, I have a bad walkie. The best place to start is making sure that the walkie powers on. Now that might sound really kind of overly simple, but a lot of times it could just simply be a bad battery or an issue with the contact plate. So as you can see here, we've got our walkie-talkie. This is without the battery on. Now, if you attach a battery and you twist this knob, this little red light should pop on and give a beep. That makes a pretty distinct sound. That means that the walkie is powered on. Now, if you don't hear that pretty distinct power on sound, there's a couple of issues that could be at play. One, most simply, the battery could just be dead. Two, there's always the contact plate. Now, there's two places you're going to want to check when it comes to the quality of the contact plate. Right here is on the battery. These three little gold indicators are going to be where the power connects from the battery to the walkie. Now, as you can see on this specific battery right here, these three contact plates do look a little on the worn sign. You can see that kind of little black dots that are the friction of the battery connecting to the walkie itself. Sometimes there could be a little bit of dirt or dust or something there, and you can just wipe that away, sometimes with a finger, sometimes with like a alcohol wipe. You might be able to borrow one from a sound cart, something like that, to make sure that that contact point is clean. Now, you've also got this contact point right here on the walkie itself. These little three contact points need to be able to press down. So it's important to test those with a battery. Again, it should power on. Also, this little rubber ring around it may be a cause of some intermittent power. Sometimes if the battery isn't on there all the way snug, the walkie can power on, but then kind of get knocked out of being fully connected, and then you have an issue where you set it down and it disconnects. So you want to make sure if it's snug and isn't coming off, if you move it, shake it around a little bit, etc. So that's the first thing you want to check, is just to make sure that both your walkies are able to power on. Next, our goal is to determine 6 points of transmission and reception. So the first one is with both the walkies, no accessories. You're testing the transmission of this walkie that's in my hand simultaneously while testing the reception of this walkie that's here on the desk. So that is contact point 1 to contact point 2 in terms of transmission and reception. Now, you also want to do the inverse of that. So walkie 2 that's now in my hand and walkie 1 that's on the desk, walkie 2's transmission seems to be working, and also walkie 1's reception seems to be working. So there are the first 2 of the 6, points of contact that you need to make sure the walkies can handle. The next involves using accessories. So a lot of times here we have the accessory port on the walkie. These are, just like a headphone jack on your phone or on your computer. They are the exact same thing, except there's 2 pins, and sometimes these can get worn out. In fact, when you first get a walkie, it might even be a little hard to push that accessory port in there. So if you go to test, it's like, oh, no, my accessory isn't working. But as you can see, It's just because the accessory isn't plugged all the way in. So it should make a pretty satisfying click in, and then when you press the push to talk on your accessory, you could use a surveillance, you could use a hand mic, a headset, any accessory you have. You just want to make sure that these 2 points of contact work. So the transmission of Walkie 1's accessory port up against the reception of just Walkie 1 by itself. So now you want to test the inverse of that. So we're going straight from the Walkie into Walkie 2's accessory port. Now, as you noticed, I'll cover up my hand mic. I just want to make sure that there's noise coming out of it. If I uncovered it, it would make this really loud screeching noise that is very unpleasant because the walkies are in so close of proximity. But it is important to note that when you do these walkie tests, you want to make sure that the volume of these walkies is about at 12 o'clock noon. You want to make sure that the walkies aren't coming in hot or coming in too quiet. You want to make sure that the middle position of sound is loud enough to hear, but not overpoweringly loud. Sometimes you'll notice with walkies like this one that we're also using, this one sounds a lot worse, right? This speaker is almost completely blown. Listen. Check, 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 check. Yeah, that's not really the walkie you'd want to use, so to speak. So you want to make sure that that audio quality is able to be heard. Now we're moving on to the 5th and 6th steps of contact here, where we've got Walkie 2's accessory port. Its transmission is working from the accessory port into the other walkie's built-in reception. And now we're going to do the opposite of that. We're going to use the plain walkie to test the reception of Walkie 2 with the accessory in hand. Check, 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 check. So as you can see here, it looks like all 6 points of contact work between these two walkies, meaning these two walkies are totally good and usable from their receive and transmission functions. So they are ready to go. Other things you're going to want to check out for is making sure that these channel knobs can go all the way around but lock at channel position number 16. This is important because, if you're using just more than the main first channel, you want to make sure that you're able to go to the channel that you're assigned to. A lot of times, multiple departments are on different channels. Maybe there's a main channel that everyone is on. But you want to make sure that the walkies are able to rotate all the way around clockwise, except they lock at 16. You also want to make sure that the power knobs work. You want to make sure that they can rotate all the way to the loudest volume and lock into place. Here they are, your power knob, which also doubles as your volume, going all the way to the right, and it's locked. You can't twist it anymore. So in the process of troubleshooting a walkie, it's also important to make sure that you have a third one on standby. It's important to have a third walkie to isolate which point of contact or which point of communication isn't working between the two devices. So I'm testing the transmission of the walkie that's in my hand and the reception of the one on the table in front of me. Now, neither one of these seems to be working. So once we bring a third walkie into play, we're able to determine which of those is wrong. Is it the transmission of the walkie that I was originally testing, or is it the reception of the one that's on the table? So we're using now a third walkie that's on the same exact frequency, and we're going to try to transmit with that one. Check, check, check. All right, and there you see it. The walkie that was on the table now seems to have a functioning reception point built into it. So that means that the first walkie that we were testing, and we're trying to test it, and there's nothing coming out, that means it is a problem with the transmission on this walkie. That same process would apply if you were using an accessory and you're all plugged in. You make sure you hear that satisfying click, and you go to cue it, and it's not working. You're going to want to test with another walkie, the same RX. And there you go. You have it. The problem was Walkie 1's transmission with its accessory port. So I hope you learned a little bit about troubleshooting a walkie, and remembering that when someone just hands you a walkie and says, oh, this one doesn't work, that there are a couple of steps you can take to make sure that you're actually dealing with a broken or damaged walkie. Now, if you do find yourself in a situation where you do have a walkie that isn't working, feel free to reach out to us at rentals@gothamsound.com and arrange a swap. We offer free swaps. If you have a walkie that doesn't seem to be working on your production, we'll be happily to exchange that, because we want to make sure that you and your crew are able to communicate effectively.